Hello and good morning properly to everyone. Sorry for the noise. I'm Zuzanna, for those of you who are here for the first time, and I'm a harpist and harp teacher living and working in Edinburgh, Scotland. And today is quite a special life again. There will be quite a few special life in the run-up to Christmas, because I'm going to share with you the results of the competition that was taking place on my profile on Instagram and Facebook. I suppose there are quite a few of you waiting impatiently to hear about that. Let me know if you can hear me, if you can see me alright. You can send a comment or just send a heart emoji, whichever works best. Just in case you can't hear me, that would be really good if we could fix it rather soon. I'm sure that some people who are applying for the competition from US and Canada might be still asleep, but as always you will be able to rewatch that live later. It stays on Instagram for 24 hours, it will stay forever on Facebook, and it's always available on my website. I put the link in the description of this live later, and you will be also able to find it through the links in my bio. About the competition, for those of you who somehow missed that, it was quite a quick pop-up style competition, but basically I was looking for two people who would be happy to review my newest collection of arrangements, that Christmas Carols from Poland collection for beginner harpists, and that's now entering the final stage of finishing and editing and reviewing, because the carols will be released on 15th of November. So I'm hoping that this will be just final checks on fingering, but hopefully that people who will be looking at the carols will be also able to tell you what do they think about this, because of course I think that this is a great collection, but it would be great to hear also from someone who hasn't been involved into that over the past year, and being able to give you a bit more direct opinion from the user point of view. It's always different. Okay, I don't know if the two people who are the two prize winners are here. Please reveal yourself if you're watching, because so far I haven't seen that many comments. I can see that there are a few people watching on Facebook, but I can't tell exactly who you are. So if you're there, let me know. Okay, ta-da-da-da-da-da. I should have some kind of fanfare, but there's only harp, so I don't think that will be going to be as impressive as a trumpet fanfare. But there we go. The two people who have won the free copy of Christmas Carols from Poland collection are Dąbrowska from Poland and Norway, and Marianne G. Bing. I just hope that I read correctly on name from Facebook, from Canada. Thank you for taking part and congratulations. I will be in touch with you over Facebook messages, and if you want, you can also get in touch with me. Send me your email address. That will make the whole process a bit quicker, because I will want to send you the PDFs by email, so you can start looking at them straight away. Congratulations to the winner, and thank you to everyone who took part. It wasn't easy to choose, but I wanted to, as I said, I wanted to have someone who is familiar with the Polish carols, so someone who knows them quite well and knows the harmony background, and also someone who has experience in teaching harp beginners. So this is why those two people I thought will be the best fit for that. So looking forward to working with you guys, looking forward to your feedback as well. Okay, now back to today's topic. Yesterday we had Halloween, and therefore I thought, how about going for quite a scary topic, at least scary for me, but I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one. So that topic is sight reading, something which can terrify a lot of people if you haven't been learning that alongside learning to play the harp, as was my case, because most of the countries on the continental Europe actually don't do as much sight reading as we are used to be doing in the UK. And I'm quite curious, because I know there are a few people following me from US and Canada as well. Is that also a similar approach in the US that we know from the UK? Are you doing lots of sight reading as well? Because I know that the ABRSM exams, which put great focus on sight reading, are also present and available in the US. So I was wondering, is that also something which is trained as early as in the first few lessons, first year of playing? Is that something that is put focus on in the exams, just just let me know, because of course I will know mostly this corner of the world, so I'm looking, being very curious what kind of approach is present elsewhere. I think sight reading is quite important, especially for the harp, especially because on this instrument is quite difficult, because we have either levers or pedals, something which means that the strings that we've got easily accessible can have different tones, and it's sometimes quite hard to remember whether the F that we're playing is sharp or flat, or whether the note that we're playing is really what we think we're playing. But I think even more so it's important to practice that skill, because it will take us a bit more time to get to the level of other instruments, to the ability that, for example, violin player, flute player, anyone who has just one line of notes, to get to the pace of sight reading that they will be able to present. But of course we will want to play with them. We would like to play through some songs just to see and check if they are worth learning and playing, and therefore I think it's a really, really useful skill to be able to just look at a line of music and be able to play it however slowly, but just to have a bit of a feeling how it works. I think there are few important elements. There are many different elements, but the basic and most important ones are the rhythm, being able to get the rhythm right. Looking forward, which is something quite counterintuitive, quite a difficult word. We are used to looking at one, sometimes very tiny bit of music, making sure that the note that we're playing is right, which finger we are playing it with, whether it's sharp, flat, and so on. But with sight reading, we need to look a bit further. We actually should push ourselves to look at the notes that we are not playing. That's something where the harp gives us advantage, because once we have a note or even a few notes under our fingers, we are, as long as we know in which direction those notes are going and our placing is basically fine, we can play those notes and then already look at what happens further and prepare mentally for that. But that's a skill that needs to be practiced, that we need to push ourselves to do. And then lastly, being able to keep going despite the mistakes. So letting go of whatever sounded weird, or whatever was or whatever note that you know that you played wrong, and keep looking ahead and keep going. I can see a comment from Lisa. Hello, I'm a beginner harp. Sorry for moving your Instagram and only playing the key of C. I enjoy your tutorials. Thank you very much. And hello to everyone else watching, and thank you for the likes. Lisa, can you tell us where are you from? And if you know, I don't know if you've gotten to this stage, but what kind of approach is to sight reading in the country where you're learning to play the harp? We will be all curious to know that. And I'll carry on in the meantime talking about the first important thing, which is rhythm. You can improve both your sense of rhythm and ability to recognize different rhythmic patterns. Sight reading, quite a lot of sight reading is about being able to recognize the patterns quickly. You might want to check one of my previous live lessons on patterns. But I would recommend to whoever is starting work on sight reading to learn to sight read rhythms in separation from melody, from the pitch. So in the PDF that you will have downloadable for this lesson, I'm attaching one of the examples from my Discover the Harp ebook, where the examples are just rhythm, just one line, and you ideally would practice them with counting out loud the beats, 1, 2, 3, and however many beats there will be, and either clapping or tapping on your knee, or whichever you find most comfortable. Also, once you move through all the exercises in the ebook, there are not that many, they are quite easy. I would recommend a book that I also presented in one of the previous lives, which is called Flip the Rhythm. It's got a lot of exercises. It's cut in half. I hope you see that you can mix and match different rhythmic patterns and make them as easy or as hard as you want them to. Of course, if you find them quite challenging, you can just pick one line and do one line at a time, like with all those exercises. But that is a really good book. You can see it's double-sided actually. You work on it from both sides, which is also really great. I don't see reply from anyone, so I'll carry on. I'll also put links to all the places where you can buy those books, so you can get them if you think any of them would be appealing for you. But rhythm is one of the crucial things for sight reading. If your rhythm is not quite right, then the whole sight reading will be affected negatively, unfortunately. Just looking at Lisa's reply, I'm from Boston in Massachusetts, US, and I've just begun to play. Not taking, oh, I don't know if I will be able to see that, the whole comment. Not taking lessons at the moment. Okay. Thank you for the comment. If you've got anything to add about sight reading, do let us know. We will be moving on to looking forward, the next important skill after the rhythm. With looking forward, you can of course practice that with rhythmic sight reading as well. Just trying to push yourself to look bar forward, and actually that's a skill that you can use one of the exercises already by practicing this with the rhythms. What I sometimes do with my students, it's quite a tricky one to do when you're on your own, but actually when you've got just one line of rhythm to read, I'll try to find one line to show you. Just let me find an exercise which will not be too tricky. Let me see what we've got here. Okay, I hope you can see, even if it's mirror version of that exercise. If you are at the very beginning and you're practicing playing just one line, tapping just one line at a time, I don't know if Instagram can see that, there seems to be quite a bit of a glare, but now it's better. What I would do is take a piece of paper or take the hand that you're not using to play and cover the first bar, see what's there and try to remember what's there. Cover either a whole bar or part of the bar and try tapping what's underneath your hand whilst looking forward. You can tap with one hand and keep covering it with the other hand. That's a really good exercise. If you can get someone to practice that with you once you move to be doing the full sight reading with pitches and with both hands, that would be really great. By the time you're playing with both hands, it's quite hard to use your third hand or whichever to cover the music. But if you're playing with just one hand, then this is a really useful exercise to practice looking forward. In the PDF, I'm showing you a few examples of crucial bits in the text when you really need to push yourself to be looking forward. So, for example, when you've got just one note in a bar and you've got 2, 3, 4 beats left to count, this is the time when you already have to be looking at the next bar. Similarly, end of the lines, whatever happens at the end of the line, even if you've got more notes to play, you need to already be looking at the next line. These are the bits where we are most often tripping over. We see a dotted meaning, we see there is nothing else, and we are thinking, oh, that's great, I can focus on counting. Counting is easy here, so I can relax a bit, but we need to already be looking forward, counting at the same time, that's important, but looking ahead at what's happening. This can be quite tricky if you've got two hands playing together and you need to remember about putting one hand somewhere else while you're counting or looking ahead. So, again, if you find this tricky, practice with one hand at a time. And as most harp students seem to find playing with the left hand learning the notes in the treble clef a bit more tricky than learning the notes in the treble clef, I would suggest that you start with practicing just the left hand. So pick a sight reading book. Fiona Clifton-Welker's sight reading books are really, really good, and grade 1 is, I think, just the right difficulty level for someone who has been learning for about a year or so. And just read the bottom line, count the rest, and use those rests. They will be much longer because you are not going to play the right hand. Use those rests to already find your place on the harp for whatever comes next. When you are going to put the hands together, you might find it easier when both hands will be quite close together. And again, you will find an example of that in the PDF. Some people find it much easier when the notes in the sight reading exercise focus around the middle C. So left hand is playing close to the higher end of the stave, right hand is playing closer to the bottom end of the stave, and then you can easily see where they are and you don't have to move as much around. And if you're someone who thinks that you would like that approach when practicing your sight reading, then I would recommend a book called Play Harp with Charlie the Kitten. It's a book for children mainly learning to play the harp, although I use it with many adults and they are fine with that as well. But the approach in this book concentrates on starting from middle C and then expanding both ways. But you can safely use those first exercises, actually even the whole book. There are many patterns there, and it's quite a nice one to practice sight reading. So even if you don't think you would like to learn to play the harp with that book, getting it to practice sight reading is a great idea if you want to start slowly and gently. Lastly, last but not least, as they say, the third thing, keep going. What I said earlier in sight reading, even if you make a mistake, the most important thing is to jump to the next beat, not go back and repeat things, just skip a beat if needed, and keep the beat where it should be, but don't play on one of the beats if you find it too confusing, jump on the next one, look forward. And this is something which is very tricky because, as I said at the beginning, we are taught and we actually push ourselves to look very diligently at each single note and whatever happens in one particular tiny place in a bar. But we actually need to move on from that, take a very quick glimpse at the note and move very quickly and not get too attached to whatever was happening earlier, especially if you're doing that on your own. I know it's still tricky, but try to think that nobody is listening, nobody will know. Your point is to keep going. What will really help you with that is having a metronome on. It can be quite frustrating at the beginning. You may feel rushed or forced to play faster than you would want to. If that happens, slow it down, slow it right down. Doesn't matter how slow, make it as slow as you need to feel comfortable with. There are some metronome apps, for example SpeakBeat, which will count for you the beats in the bar, saying 1, 2, 3, and that will make it a lot easier for you to first follow where you are in the bar, and also to make sure that you're not going back, because if you go back to the very beginning, your app will be counting 2 and 3 for you and you will be still on 1, so that will mess up the whole thing, which is why I think either using that app, or if you can't use that app, I think it's only available for Apple devices. What you can do is set a metronome app, put a simple recorder on your phone, and just record your voice saying 1, 2, 3, and so on with the metronome. And then play it back when you're doing your sight reading. It's quite... Then there is a choice of which books do you use for sight reading. I suggested already some sight reading books, typical sight reading books, some beginner books. It's a good idea to use books that where you don't necessarily know the pieces, so you're not going to expect to hear a certain tune or melody when you're playing. And if you don't know Polish carols, then definitely buy my book, because you will not know those melodies and you will be able to use them as sight reading practice. They are perfect material for that. It also can have an advantage of practicing sight reading with songs that you know already, because then you will be more inclined to keep that melody going. But the danger is that you might then start playing the pieces too fast, because you will hear already that melody going in your head and you will want to catch up with it. And then there is another challenge that you might feel an even stronger urge to go back and correct things that didn't sound right. So that's why I would be slightly more inclined to practice music or exercises that you are completely unfamiliar with. I think it's a good way to start, and anyway, there are so many books that it's very easy to find both types. As always, with that live, you will be able to watch it on my website, and from my website you will be able to download that PDF that I included some example of exercises and all the things that I talked about, as well as list of the materials of the apps where you can buy them from. You will need to leave your email, so the password and the links arrive to your email. For all of you who are already my newsletter subscribers, you don't need to sign up again. Use your password and link that you got in your first confirmation message. I think that's everything. I don't know if anyone has any questions. I hope that people who will watch later might be able to share some of their experience with sight reading and what's the system like in their countries. That would be that's always interesting to discuss about, especially for someone like me who started learning to play in a country where there is not that much focus on sight reading, where we mostly focus on learning the pieces and not practicing sight reading skills, and then being thrown into the UK music scene where it's completely different, where everyone sight reads really well. And and I have to honestly say that at the very beginning, when I arrived in the UK and started studying at the Guildhall School, I thought that I'm never going to be able to make it here, because I thought that everyone sight reads all the time and the rehearsal times are really short. I thought I would just, how do they say? They say sink or swim. So I thought I would be basically sinking, but so far it's alright. And actually I found learning and practicing sight reading rather entertaining thing to do. Once I knew all those tricks about covering the music, looking ahead, putting the metronome on, then it's actually a really, really fun thing to do, and quite a relaxing one, because you just have to forgo and not pay attention to the mistakes, and actually it can be quite liberating and really fun. So I hope you will be able to use some of those tips to have some fun practicing sight reading, and that if it is a scary topic for you, as it used to be for me, then it will be slightly less scary. Halloween is over now. And looking forward to seeing you next week. And if you want to hear more about Christmas carols and make sure that you don't miss any other things, if you miss the competition and you don't want to miss any other extra things, discounts and things like that, sign up to the waiting list that I will put a link to in the description. Okay, take care and have a lovely weekend. Bye!